Without objection. Thank you.
Business. Thank you. I rise today to commend the Senate Appropriations Committee under the leadership of Chairman Leahy and Ranking Member Graham on a decision we made yesterday as a full committee with regard to U.S. assistance to Pakistan. In short, what the Senate did was to remove nearly all of the guarantees of assistance funding to the Pakistani government based on new information and statements made by senior U.S. government officials on the Pakistani government and its intelligence service called the ISI's support for an organization called the Haqqani Network, one of the most dangerous terrorist organizations on earth. We have learned from statements by our U.S. ambassador in Kabul, the U.S. ambassador in Islamabad, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff that the Haqqani Network has become the principal threat to the Afghan government, to U.S. troops serving in Afghanistan, and to our NATO allies. Just recently, we have seen the U.S. Embassy in Kabul and NATO headquarters was attacked on September 12th. At least 16 people were killed, including 5 Afghan police officers and 11 civilians, in an attack organized and put together by the Haqqani Network under the direct protection and support of Pakistan's government itself. Just a few days earlier at Combat Post Saeed Abad in Wardak Province, on September 10th, over 77 U.S. soldiers and 17 Afghans were hit by a massive truck bomb, likely put together by the Haqqani Network, probably in Afghanistan, for an attack on Americans. This June, on June 28th, at the Hotel Intercontinental in Kabul, 12 Afghans were killed and 8 were wounded during a nighttime attack, also likely sponsored by the Haqqani Network. And in February, that same network attacked Kabul Bank on February 19th, with over 40 people killed. The Haqqani Network is a different branch of the Taliban. The Taliban largely do not have the safest sanctuary in Afghanistan or Pakistan. They have surrendered much of their operational control and initiative in eastern Afghanistan to the Haqqani Network. The reason why the Haqqani Network has become so powerful and so strong is because it is protected by the government of Pakistan itself, a claimed ally of the United States that receives substantial assistance provided by this Congress. Now, we have seen a very clear picture emerge from the administration, directly connecting the government of Afghanistan to the Haqqani Network and support and assistance that is involved in the death of American servicemen and women and our NATO and Afghan allies. This started out on September 13th, when one of our most able Foreign Service officers, a real hero of the Foreign Service, our ambassador in Afghanistan, Ryan Crocker, highlighted Pakistan's support for the Haqqani Network and its role in attacks in Afghanistan. Just 4 days later, our U.S. ambassador, his counterpart in Islamabad, Cameron Munter, gave a very important and I frankly think brave interview on Pakistani state radio, highlighting the role of Pakistan's government support for this terrorist organization and its attacks on U.S. servicemen and women in Afghanistan. The following day, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, during a meeting with Pakistan's Foreign Minister Kirk, also highlighted the government's support for this terrorist organization and its attack on American citizens serving in uniform in Afghanistan. And finally, on September 20th, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Mullen, in a presentation before the Carnegie Endowment for Peace, also highlighted Pakistan's official government support for the ISI and the Haqqani Network. In testimony today in the Senate Armed Services Committee, Admiral Mullen reiterated these claims, stating that the ISI of Pakistan's government had provided explicit support for an attack on the U.S. Embassy in Kabul and our NATO headquarters. Now, the Haqqani Network, supported by the government of Pakistan, is also responsible for attacks on Afghan and Indian construction efforts in the Kabul-Gardes Road, at Camp Chapman, an attack that killed 7 CIA employees, and the kidnapping of British and American journalists. Within Pakistan, the Haqqani network serves as a trusted intermediary between the Pakistani intelligence service and terrorist organizations, active also in attacking the Indian democracy in Kashmir and throughout the subcontinent. These include groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, organizations responsible for the 2008 and 2011 Mumbai attacks. Now, Secretary Clinton, Secretary Panetta, Admiral Mullen, General Allen, Ambassador Crocker, Ambassador Munter, and the Congress, Republicans and Democrats, and here in the Senate, now all agree that Pakistan government complicity and long-standing history of support and protection for the Haqqani network is a major impediment of the United States' goal of achieving safety and security in Pakistan and Afghanistan. The Pakistani government should end its protection of the Haqqani network. The Haqqani network is a wholly owned subsidiary of the ISI and responsible for the death of American servicemen and women and civilians in Afghanistan. Both the United States and Pakistan would benefit from a strong and stable Afghanistan, but the ISI, part of the Pakistani government, disagrees and supports terror. That's why it's so important that the Senate made this decision to remove all but the counterterrorism accounts from Pakistan and to put in new language conditioning any extension of aid to Pakistan on cooperation against the Haqqani network. Now, we will need to define what cooperation means, and I hope what it will mean is, number one, a substantive and continuous reduction in Haqqani op-tempo against U.S. and NATO forces in Afghanistan, showing that nearly all of the attacks have been eliminated within the calendar year. On top of that, authority or action by the United States or NATO allies to hit Haqqani targets in the frontier autonomous tribal area where they have been protected to date. Unless we can meet these two conditions, I believe that the decision that we have made to remove the floors and stop the guarantee funding for Pakistan is a wise one. This is a rare moment in which the U.S. ambassador in Kabul, the U.S. ambassador in Islamabad, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of State have all said that the Pakistani government directly supports terror through the Haqqani network and needs to stop. And in these tough economic times, where nearly all of the assistance under the legislation approved yesterday is in the Overseas Contingent Operation account, which, remember, is all borrowed money to be provided to Pakistan, should be done only if their policy of supporting the Haqqani network ends. I'm very glad that the administration and now the Congress has spoken with a clear voice. I only hope that we hold our nerve, because otherwise, if we go by past policies of having Pakistani promises and official statements be the mere cause for releasing U.S. aid, we will repeat the failures of the current policy. We need actual action. We need to understand that senior Pakistani officials of their foreign ministry, of their intelligence service, and of their Defense Department have directly lied to American officials. And only by action and cutting off the Haqqani network can we make sure that at least the U.S. taxpayer is not supporting this terrorism. I commend the action of the Foreign Operations Committee yesterday. I commend that it was a bipartisan action. And now I hope that we stick to our guns and make sure that we do not provide assistance to Pakistan unless they stop supporting this most dangerous now terrorist organization operating against our men and women in uniform serving in Afghanistan. And with that, Madam President, I yield the floor.
Madam President.